today we're talking with board member and expert in healthcare ethics, and this is Michele Mathis, JD, of Secretary of the Board of Penn's Village, which is a nonprofit in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And she is there dedicated to helping older Philadelphians age in place. That's correct. And Michele is also an instructor at Drexel's Klein School of Law and College of Medicine, as well as she does a law and aging course in the Health Service Administration Department at Drexel's LeBeau College of Business. LeBeau. And she said it was a mouthful, and it is. But wow, what an amazing thing. So let's start by asking you about your background. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Queens, New York, and I went to Flushing High School, a public high school in New York, and then went on to the University of Pennsylvania for 4 years. And go back a little bit. When I went to college, I was a pre-med student. My dad was a surgeon, and I grew up my whole life to the age of 18, believing that I wanted to be a doctor also. But when I was 15, I spent the summer in France. And I came back from there thinking, the world is a very big place, and there are lots of different ways to live. And I started to have questions about whether I wanted to spend my whole life in what then was beginning to look to me like a more cabined area of science and medicine.
Okay, and it was science that you were focused on there?
I was going to major in biology. Yeah, exactly. And then be a surgeon like my dad, because I thought his work was fascinating.
Right.
I thought, I don't know if I want to be a government lawyer my whole life. So I was also interested in environmental law in those days. And so fast forwarding a little bit, I left government and went to work for Atlantic Richfield, which was a Fortune, I don't know, it might have been a Fortune 50 company, but certainly a Fortune 500 company in those days in the marketing department of Atlantic Richfield. So I got that perspective of what it is to work in the very, very profit-focused corporate world. And that I found it very difficult because I didn't care. That was not a goodness. I didn't care about whether they made 2 cents on a ton of asphalt or they didn't.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult for me to be a very effective advocate, because I thought, why are you arguing over 2 cents a ton for asphalt? So then I became pregnant with my older son, and I ended up deciding to leave practice and be home and raise children, which I did for 16 years. And then when I went back to work, I was fortunate to get a job in a law firm. So I got to see the private law firm world, which was also very, very profit focused. And I decided this is not how I wanted to spend my life. So I went back and studied bioethics up at Columbia University and ended up at Cary, where I was for 25 years.
And would you say that by the time you got to Cary, you had reached a moment where you wanted to settle in somewhere? Is that why you finally chose Cary? How did you wind up choosing elder care? Cary is, maybe we should tell everyone what Cary was, because it is now closed, unfortunately.
Right. It was then for almost 50 years the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of Elders, based here in Philadelphia, but it had a reach that went actually national in many of our training programs, and our work was essential to the whole region. Yeah.
And so was that a determination? Like, what made you decide I'm going to pull 20 years here? Did it just kind of collapse into a day-to-day, or?
No. Well, so I finished the program in bioethics up at Columbia. And halfway through the program, the director said to the 25 of us who were in this program, you all know there are no jobs in bioethics, which at the time there really weren't. And I thought, I was the only one from Philadelphia because it was up in New York. I traveled to it. And I thought, there aren't that many people who have a law degree and training in bioethics. So there just needs to be like one job. Maybe I can get it. And I bumped into a friend who was on the faculty at Penn and at a hardware store. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just finished this program in bioethics and I'm looking for a job." And he said, Oh, well, I was just, invited to write something for this organization, Carrie, that's doing some kind of ethics project. Why don't you get in touch with them? So it was through this very happenstance meeting that I then contacted Carrie, and it was not a job. They were creating an advisory committee to advise them on let me step back a moment.
Sure.
Carrie had completed a nationally recognized and award-winning elder abuse prevention training program for long-term care staff.
Okay.
Because elder abuse had become a very top-of-mind issue, certainly among people in the aging community, but it had gotten to Congress as well. And it was written into one of the funding bills that long-term care facilities had to have training on abuse prevention.
Sure.
So Carrie developed this training. It was replicated nationally and even internationally. So when they finished that, they thought maybe somebody said to Carrie, we have so many other ethical issues. So Carrie created this advisory committee to develop an ethics training program as well for long-term care staff. And Jodi Kantor, Jodi Kantor is an investigative reporter for the New York Times, award-winning, and she's written a book called How to Start, which has just been published. And I saw her discussing the book on television, and she said the two words that are most important on how to start are craft and need. You need to develop your own craft, whatever that is, whether it's finance or whether it's bioethics or whether it's food security, whatever it is. Develop your area essentially of knowledge, and then find the need. And I think those watchwords are important for anyone who's starting out in any field to develop themselves in a way that's interesting to them, so that they have some energy behind it, some passion behind it, and then explore where the need is.
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about there could also be described as building your authenticity, and maybe today kids would understand language like that. It's more about understanding who you are as a person, kind of exploring different sides to yourself, and building skills along the way.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one final question here today. Where can caregivers and leaders go to learn more about healthcare ethics and policy, and where are the resources that people who might be inspired by your story, younger people or people that are looking to change careers, where would they start to be able to support the kind of mission that you have been dedicated towards?
Well, I think that the first place to go would be, as I did, to organizations within their communities to decide an area that they are interested in, and then possibly just look it up in the phone book, essentially, as I did, and give a call. And because any nonprofit is hungry for young people who are interested in becoming involved in the issue, for volunteers for sure, and then volunteering is a great way because you get to have a sense, without making a major commitment of your life commitment, get a sense of whether this is a field that you're really interested in. So volunteering is a wonderful way to start.
Michele, thank you for sharing your insights and your visionary leadership. I think you perfectly represent what we're trying to do with this series, where you can provide people with a really strong understanding of the choices and decisions you made and the benefits that's had to your career and also to your life and your philosophy, and in your case, obviously ethics is important, but your personal ethics. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much for all you've done. If anybody hasn't told you that recently, you are an inspiration to us, and I'm sure you will be to many other people. And in the future, we hope to be able to talk to you again if you come up with anything else you'd like to talk about, in particular with us here. This series will be ongoing, and we would love to sit down with you again.
Sure. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity. And also, I'll just say, if anyone wants to get in touch with me personally, if they have any questions about, if they were interested in a career in the nonprofit world versus the for-profit world, as I say, I love talking to students, and I'd be happy to hear from anyone.
Okay, well, don't over-inundate her, guys. We'll put links in the description box below to contact Michele through us, and we'll be able to pass through information if you do have questions. We might do a Q&A down the line, something like that, maybe something on Reddit. And we also will provide some links to nonprofits that are close to Michelle's heart, and if you want to make a donation, feel free to do that as well. We're always looking to get support for some of these causes as well. You do make a difference every time you put even $1 into one of these funds. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Michelle, for coming out.